What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back. More C4. And this is not what I really wanted to wake up to. I mean, I've been up for a little bit here, but checking on Twitter, Philadelphia have decided to release cornerback Darius Slay. It's going to be a post-June 1st release, which is going to save apparently like $17 million of salary cap for the Philadelphia Eagles. So, like, that's, you gotta mention that to at least add some bit of context, not, we're releasing Darius Slay because he was unhappy. We're releasing Darius Slay because he demanded a trade. We're releasing Darius Slay because he's washed. It came to a point after bringing back James Bradberry that Darius Slay, he was looking for a contract extension. He was looking for more years with Philadelphia. And at 32 years old, clearly they made a decision that, it wasn't going to work out. They did not want to keep him beyond age 32, which was this season. And I mean, he's going to have an interesting market at this point. I'm hoping he just don't go to, I don't think he'd go to a rival. I mean, Dallas probably isn't going to be in the market after signing Stephon Gilmore, but I mean the Giants. I'd prefer Slay to the team looks like the Ravens. I think the Ravens would be an interesting play for Darius Slay. I think he'd be a great veteran on the back end of that defense. I've seen people maybe say the Dolphins just because they're on a pure out spending spree, and maybe something happens with Xavier Howard down there. But, I just watch him go to, the fucking Niners or something like that. That'd be something super annoying. If he goes to the AFC, finishes his career off in the AFC, so be it. It's annoying, though. It does feel like, I don't know, hearing Slay talk a lot about that Super Bowl run, if it did come down to him wanting more years, maybe wanting more money over those years, I don't know. I would have pegged Darius Slay to be a guy that would want to run it back and try to get a Super Bowl ring. He seems like at this point in his career, as long as he's being reasonably financially compensated, he might prioritize trying to get that Super Bowl ring. And definitely, Philly has as easy of a pass as anybody. But who knows? Maybe he goes Kansas City, Cincinnati, one of those teams or something like that, and has just as good of a chance to go on a contender. So it sucks. I mean, Slay's been awesome. I think you need to make an argument that best corner since Asante Samuel that we've had on the roster. Hopefully, James Bradberry can step up now as our corner one. That was my worry. I talked about that literally yesterday in the James Bradberry reaction video. I was like, I like James Bradberry a lot more as a 1A for Slay, 1B for Bradberry than it is, Bradberry, our new number one lockdown corner. Just because, I like to see similar circumstances. We knew James Bradberry was great as a corner two last year. Great corner two who probably went up against some ones. There's definitely some teams that would line up their wide receiver one on Bradberry because they didn't want them going up against Slay. And obviously, James Bradberry was exceptional last season. I think you could argue James Bradberry was better than Darius Slay last season. But that's still a small sample size, whereas the fact that Darius Slay has been consistently, a top 10 corner in the NFL since he's been in the league. And there was a couple times during his time with Philadelphia that you could make the argument he was playing like a top 5 corner in the NFL. He's always been a fan favorite, too. I like Darius Slay. It's a tough one, man. I made a poll on my Twitter. Give me a follow on Twitter at PapaXC4 for all things this offseason. Just general. I just literally posted this 10 minutes ago. Who would you have picked between Slay and Bradberry? And it seems like most Eagle fans are going with Slay, which is where I would have figured. I probably should almost phrase this. I can't because it might not be. But I should almost phrase this as would you rather Darius Slay stay or have Bradberry and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Because I imagine if Philly at least attempts to bring back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, it's going to be some of that Slay money that is going to be offered up. And it looks like I want to be wishful and saying you could probably get CJGJ for 13.5, 14 million. And I think if you're freeing up 17.5 from Slay, what better way to spend that money than to look at retaining Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Again, looking at Slay's contract here, it was final year. We have all these dummy years. That's how Howie Roseman does business. It's one of those things where it's last season did not end the best for Darius Slay. It felt like I can't remember what game it was. Remember there was the game where it was like a Slay and Josiah Scott botch, right? What game was that? Was that New Orleans? It's one of those losses. And then basically, like, Slay kind of came out and said it wasn't my fault, just I just got fucked up, essentially. And I personally wasn't a big fan of that, given that Darius Slay is a much better player, given that Darius Slay was a team captain, given that, and my argument was this. If I'm a really good player and my backup that is only playing because of his injury fucks up, I'm probably not going to throw him under the bus. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably going to maybe hold myself to a higher standard and be like, fuck, I should have made a play on that. We have these other guys in here, backups. I should have made a play on that. And that was kind of my approach. Like, I would like to see that from Slay. And I always felt like from that point on, he did start to regress a little bit last season. And you use that lightly in terms of regression because it's hard to be a corner in today's NFL. And I tell you right now, 100% I would rather Darius Slay be on this roster than not be on this roster. But you have to think, were we starting to see signs of the beginning of the end for Darius Slay at 32 years old? That's a pretty good cutoff point for not paying big money. I think, especially that's probably from Howie Roseman's standpoint. I think we've seen old corners still play at a pretty high level. Remember Xavier Rhodes? You still got Patrick Peterson. They're still playing pretty well, but are they playing? Those guys are getting like 1 year type deals nowadays. These guys are getting 1 year type deals, maybe player option for year 2. They're not getting extensions at 32 years old. So I do feel like Philly got into this weird spot where, like, if Slay was a free agent, right? Contract, we didn't release him, he's a free. Like, I don't think there's many teams that would be giving him 3 year, like, guaranteed over 3 seasons. Like, whatever he was probably looking for Philadelphia, there's a reason why there was no trade market there. So it's going to be interesting to see what he gets wherever he ends up landing. I just think it'd be ideal if it's not in the NFC. Just don't go on one of our competition. But if it is, so be it. Is what it is, man. We got to kind of support James Bradberry and hope that we lose a Slay, but we gain someone somewhere else. We gain somebody that will be able to get a couple picks a year, get a couple PBUs a year, maybe a pick 6 a year, make a Pro Bowl a year. Are you going to be able to do that in free agency still? Maybe. Throw a couple names out there. You're going to be able to do that during the draft? Maybe. I think there's a lot that's going to be decided from the follow-up from this Darius Slay trade to what Howie Roseman's going to do in the draft. Because it's been, you might have been optimistic. May have talked about it honestly. Like, hey, can we get Bijan Robinson? That'd be sick. That'd be fun. That'd be cool. But we all knew all along that it was likely not. Howie Roseman's going to build trenches. He's got to get a D lineman. He's got an offensive lineman. Like, that's, if we keep and you invest both of those first-round picks, knowing Howie Roseman, I'd say it's 75% chance, maybe even 80% chance, going to be someone on the line of scrimmage. But with moving on from Slay, maybe they want to go corner. Maybe this is enough if the free agency market doesn't yield a rental, like a Steven Nelson type rental, or hell, even a James Bradberry type rental. Maybe Christian Gonzalez could be in play, or Joey Porter Jr., or Devin Witherspoon. I think personally, if we're doing all this, I'd almost go I'd trade up to secure that we could pick what corner we wanted, not have whoever's left. So that'd likely be trying to trade up to get Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. But before we look at the free agents, before we look at the draft, let's look at the free agents here. James Bradberry was the second top corner for this PFF free agency. Number 1 was Jamel Dean. Hasn't updated him to signed yet. There's Rock Ya-Sin out here. I mean, he came from Temple. That could make sense. Byron Murphy signed with the Vikings. I would have liked that. Marcus Peters is my preferred choice right now. If we're doing 1 year options, I've wanted Marcus Peters since he was coming out of college. He was my dream pick for the Philadelphia Eagles that year, 2015, I think it was. And, I mean, he played well down the stretch for, as you can just read there in the blurb, for the Baltimore Ravens. I almost could feel like this could be a swap. I could see Slay going to the Ravens, and I would love to see Marcus Peters coming to Philadelphia. Peters is, right here, too, also kind of fits what we're going to be looking for. Likely looking for a 1 year offer to serve as number 2 corner with some upside. That's what we need. We pay James Bradberry now to be our corner 1. Let's get another guy, high-skilled guy. And I just feel like having Marcus Peters, and if we can re-sign Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, that's a lot of dog in that secondary, if you know what I mean. Shaquille Griffin could be interesting. Got released from the Jaguars. And I feel like that's a little interesting. I think a lot of people still would consider him a starting corner. He's been on the market for a minute. Maybe the market's not. I mean, the corner market has not been. I think Byron Murphy got 2-year, 20 mil, and I wasn't crazy guaranteed. So the corner market, I mean, it's kind of setting itself. I don't know if it's the victim of this year's free agency class or draft class. Sorry, that's projected to be deep. Right, we'll take a look at some of those names in just 1 second. But if we're looking for free agents, I think Murphy Bunting could be interesting. That's a pretty good PFF nerd grade, and he was a former second round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I talked about him in my free agency preview video. He could be an interesting guy. Only 25 years old. I mean, not much else beyond. I'd say those would be the big three: Sean Murphy Bunting, Shaquille Griffin, Marcus Peters for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I just feel like Peters fits the 1-year rental mold a little bit better. I even think if you consider if this has got Howie Roseman changing his thinkings on the draft that he wants to prioritize drafting a corner, that's a tough spot to make a jump from college. Not a lot of corners in the first round that get thrown to the fire and start day one have a lot of success. For every Sauce Gardner, you get a Derek Stingley. You know what I'm saying? Like we could not see a better example of that from last year's draft class where 2 corners were drafted incredibly high. And Sauce Gardner worked out because he's a monster. And then you had someone that's more of an athlete, needs to, didn't play a whole lot in college, struggled with injuries and stuff like that at LSU for Derek Stingley. Super hyped up, definitely not writing him off. But you could just see like it took him a little bit longer to kind of put it all together. And now he's going to be looking to build off of that into year 2. And if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you can't really, if you invest in a corner in the first round and have him figured out in year 2. We don't really have that luxury now moving on from Darius Slay. So I think, you bring Marcus Peters in 1 year, I don't know, $8 million, $9 million, probably somewhere in that range. And then you look towards the draft. They have Devin Witherspoon, but I just feel like athletically speaking, Christian Gonzalez might be the best investment of drafting a corner in the top 10. But you see Witherspoon, he's going to test at his personal workout. He was still hurt from his pro day. But, I mean, look right there. They took the words right out of my mouth how I've been talking about it. Best tape last year was Devin Witherspoon. Easy fan favorite type for the Eagles as well. Loves throwing a big hit. Has shades of freaking Sheldon Brown out there. But Gonzalez is like, I think the Raz for Christian Gonzalez was like 8th all time. He's like the 8th most athletic corner since like that guy started collecting stats, which was in, I don't even know what it was, 1987. So give me that guy. Joey Porter Jr., I think he actually might be a great fit for Sean Desai's defense. For what little that I've kind of dived into what a Sean Desai defense could look like. Seems like Joey Porter also could maybe fit the billing. But is he worth the top 10 pick? Makes it a little bit interesting. Deonte Banks out of Maryland, ridiculous athlete. Probably the second best athlete right now, unless like Witherspoon shocks everybody at the combine. Because Witherspoon looks like he's probably a 4.4 guy. Whereas Gonzalez is 6'2", low 4.4s. Banks was 4.3s at 6'2". 4.35 right there. 42-inch vert. Ugh, ridiculous. Manuel Forbes. Replace one Mississippi State corner with another Mississippi State corner. Even at 166, this guy is an absolute ball hawk. And then you're going to start getting the value picks. Maybe in that second round. You trade down from 30. Get into that second round. And, Forbes could be there. Cam Smith could be there. Personally, Juju Brents, 6'4", could be this year's Tariq Woolen. We got Sean Desai, who's coming over from that Seattle Seahawks defense where they had Tariq Woolen. Maybe he says, I can develop this guy. This guy has somewhat similar traits, not as straight line speed, doesn't have the 4.26 speed that Tariq Woolen had. If Keely Ringo falls out, there's another developmental guy. Height, weight, speed. There are options. This is a good year to need corner help, which Philly, I think you definitely make the argument right now between free agency and the draft. We need 2 corners. We have James Bradbury. Nice. We have Avonte Maddox in the slot. Nice. Zach McPherson has proven to be a versatile, solid special teamer right now. Don't know if I want to throw him out on the outside. Don't know how I really want any of these other corners. I just think we need 2 corners. We need, if you told me right now, C4, in 2 weeks' time or something like that, a little bit later in free agency, Philly signs Marcus Peters. I still think you go corner. If any of these guys at 10 or 30 or second round, day 2 pick, fit your high up on your board, you got to make a jump. I think Philly definitely still needs corner up. I still think it's a top priority. I still thought even with Darius Slay here at 32, corner was a top priority. And now until something may or may not happen via trade or free agency, it's going to be massive. going into this draft. So let me know in the comment section below. Who would you want to see Philadelphia sign in free agency to come in, maybe on a 1-year rental? Is it consensus? Can I put it in your guys' head that like Marcus Peters works out a lot? What corner would you like to see Philly potentially draft in the draft? Who is your corner one? Is it Witherspoon? Is it Gonzalez? I know lots of Eagles Twitter love Joey Porter Jr. I think he would be a great fit. Or do we go with an S-tier type athlete? It'd be interesting. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. That will do it for me here today, guys, though. I'm going to go finish up a Rams rebuild that will be going over up on the main channel a little bit later today. But for all things Eagles, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, stick around, and it's going to be a good time. And I'll see you guys back in the next one. Peace out.